Hello there, my truly magnificent, brilliant friends, and a very warm, heartfelt welcome back to another highly special extended episode of the English Daily Podcast. I am absolutely overjoyed and deeply honored to have you here spending your incredibly valuable time with me today, no matter where you are listening from in this big, beautiful world. Perhaps you are sitting comfortably in a quiet room with a warm mug of hot coffee or tea. Perhaps you are doing your evening household chores, washing the dishes, folding your clean clothes, or tidying up your bedroom. Or perhaps you are walking outside in a fresh green park, listening to the birds while you take your daily healthy steps. Wherever you are and whatever you are doing right now, I want to invite you to take a deep breath, relax the muscles in your jaw, let your shoulders drop completely. This is your personal sanctuary for language growth. There are no difficult tests here, there are no strict grades, and there is absolutely no judgment. There is only you, your incredible passion, and my slow, clear voice. My name is Kevin, and I am your host, your teacher, and your dedicated guide on this beautiful path towards speaking natural English with absolute freedom, genuine confidence, and real peace of mind. In today's massive episode, we are going to embark on an exceptionally long and immersive journey. We are going to learn and practice English using one of the most famous, exciting, and emotionally powerful classic historical stories in world literature. But, as I always promise you, do not worry or feel overwhelmed. We are not going to open a thick, ancient textbook filled with complicated, outdated grammar rules that make your head hurt. That would be far too heavy and frustrating for an A1 or A2 learner. Instead, I have personally crafted a beautifully summarized, highly expanded, and clear version of this famous tale. This version is written using clean sentence structures, active vocabulary, and a perfect natural rhythm that allows your brain to absorb English effortlessly. The spectacular story we are going to explore today is called Les Misérables. It is a deeply moving adventure about a poor man who spent 19 years in a hard prison, a sudden act of beautiful forgiveness that changes his soul, a dynamic chase across France, a revolution in the crowded streets of Paris, and deep lessons about mercy, hope, personal transformation, and how a human being can rise above their painful past. Let us carefully review our master plan for this mega episode today so you know exactly what to expect. First, in Part 2, you will hear the complete, extensive story told slowly and clearly. I want you to simply sit back, close your eyes if you can, relax, and let the vivid imagery and emotions of the story paint a magnificent movie inside your imagination. Second, in Part 3, we will enter a profound conceptual deep dive. We will analyze the psychological themes of the story and discover how the heavy chains of the old prison connect directly to your personal success as an English language learner. Third, in Part 4, we will step inside the English Daily Vocabulary Studio. I will pull out 20 fantastic, practical phrases directly from the narrative. I will explain each word in a completely transparent, simple way, give you real-life, everyday examples, and then we will immediately begin our giant, interactive shadowing workout. Every time I finish a sentence, you will hear the simple cue to speak. When you hear that cue, open your mouth, find your courage, use your voice, and become my perfect vocal echo. And finally, in Part 5, we will look at an incredible practical strategy called passive lifestyle integration to supercharge your daily routine. This is going to be a comprehensive and immersive episode, so clear your mind, get comfortable,
and let us begin our great journey into Les Misérables.
A long time ago, in the year 1815, a tall and powerful man walked slowly down a dusty road in the south of France. His name was Jean Valjean. Jean Valjean was a very poor and unhappy man. Many years before, his sister's children were starving because they had no food. Jean Valjean was desperate, so he broke a glass window and stole a single loaf of bread to feed them. The police caught him immediately, and because the laws were very harsh, he was sent to a terrible prison ship. Because he tried to escape multiple times, his punishment was extended. He spent 19 long years doing hard, exhausting labor in heavy iron chains.
When Jean Valjean was finally released, he was given a yellow passport. In those days, a yellow passport meant you were an ex-convict, a dangerous criminal from the dungeons. Jean Valjean walked for miles, hungry, thirsty, and exhausted. He reached a small town, but whenever he went to an inn or a house to ask for food and a bed, the owners looked at his yellow passport, shouted insults at him, and slammed the heavy wooden doors in his face. They treated him like a dangerous monster. Jean Valjean felt a cold, bitter wave of hatred growing inside his heart. He thought, "The world is cruel to me, so I will be cruel to the world." He lay down on a cold stone bench in the street, ready to sleep in the dirt. Suddenly, a kind woman noticed him and told him to knock on the door of the local bishop's house. The bishop of the town was a truly holy and magnificent man named Bishop Myriel. Myriel did not care about the yellow passport. He opened his door wide, smiled warmly, and invited Jean Valjean inside. He called him my brother, gave him a warm bowl of soup, and let him sleep in a clean bed with soft white pillows.
But Jean Valjean's soul was still dark from 19 years of prison. In the middle of the quiet night, while everyone was sleeping, he woke up. He walked into the dining room, found a beautiful box containing 6 heavy silver plates and a silver fork, stuffed them into his coat bag, and ran away into the dark night. He had robbed the only man who was kind to him. The next morning, 3 police officers caught Jean Valjean running down the road. They searched his bag, found the heavy silver plates, and dragged him back to the bishop's house in handcuffs. The police officer looked at the bishop and said, "Monsieur, we found this criminal with your silver. He claims that you gave it to him as a gift." Jean Valjean stood there, his head down, expecting to be sent back to the dark prison ship for the rest of his life. But Bishop Myriel did something miraculous. He looked at Jean Valjean with eyes full of divine mercy, smiled, and said calmly, "Ah, my friend, I am so glad you have returned. You forgot that I gave you the 2 silver candlesticks as well. They are also made of pure silver, and they are worth a lot of money. Why did you leave them behind?" The police officers were completely shocked. They released Jean Valjean's handcuffs, apologized to the bishop, and walked away. Jean Valjean stood in the middle of the room, trembling in absolute confusion and amazement. He had never seen such grace in his entire life. Bishop Myriel walked close to Jean Valjean, handed him the 2 heavy silver candlesticks, and whispered with a deep, gentle voice, "Jean Valjean, my brother, you no longer belong to the dark. I have bought your soul from old sorrow and anger, and now I give it back to God. Use this silver to become an honest, kind, and noble man. Promise me." Jean Valjean wept bitter tears of pure transformation. The cold ice around his heart melted completely. He left the town, changed his identity, and tore up his yellow passport. He adopted a new name, Monsieur Madeleine. He used the silver to build a massive factory that made beautiful glass ornaments. He created hundreds of jobs for poor citizens, built a free hospital, and became so wealthy and beloved that the government officially made him the mayor of the town. He spent his days helping the poor, keeping his sacred promise to the bishop. But a dark shadow from his past was still hunting him. The head of the local police was an incredibly strict, cold, and obsessive inspector named Javert. Inspector Javert did not believe that human beings could change. To Javert, the law was a mechanical clock. If you commit a crime once, you are a criminal forever. Javert began to watch the new mayor very closely. He noticed that the mayor had extraordinary physical strength, exactly like a famous convict he used to guard on the prison ships named Jean Valjean. Javert became determined to unmask the mayor and send him back to the dungeons. At this time, a poor young woman named Fantine worked in the mayor's factory. Fantine had a beautiful face, but a very tragic life. She had a little daughter named Cosette, but she was a single mother and had no family to help her. To protect her child, Fantine left Cosette with a family of innkeepers in a distant village, a greedy and deceitful couple named the Thénardiers. Fantine sent all her monthly factory wages to the Thénardiers to buy food and clothes for Cosette, but the Thénardiers were monsters. They stole Fantine's money, used Cosette as a helpless slave girl in their inn, and dressed the little child in old rags while she worked in the cold. Eventually, the other strict women in the factory discovered that Fantine had a secret child. They fired her from her job immediately, without the mayor knowing. Fantine became completely bankrupt and desperate. To send money to the Thénardiers for her sick child, she sold her beautiful long hair, she sold her front teeth, and finally, she had to sell her own body in the dark streets to earn a few coins. She became severely ill with tuberculosis, her lungs coughing blood. One cold night, a cruel man insulted Fantine in the street and threw snow down her back. Fantine became angry and scratched his face. Inspector Javert appeared instantly and arrested her, sentencing her to 6 months in prison. Fantine wept loudly, screaming that her child would die if she went to jail. Mayor Madeleine, who was Jean Valjean, walked into the police station. When he discovered the truth about Fantine's suffering, he used his authority as mayor to overrule Javert and release her immediately. He carried her fragile body to his free hospital and put her in a warm bed, promising her that he would personally go to the village to rescue little Cosette and bring her back. But that very evening, Javert walked into the mayor's private office. He looked at Valjean with cold eyes and said, "Monsieur, I have a confession. I thought you were the famous escaped convict Jean Valjean, and I wrote a letter to the Supreme Court in Paris to accuse you. But I was mistaken. The police in another town have just arrested a poor, simple man named Champmathieu. He looks exactly like Valjean, and 3 old guards have identified him. He is going to court tomorrow to be sentenced to life in prison." Jean Valjean sat at his desk, his heart thumping with intense panic. He faced a terrifying moral crisis. If he stayed silent, the innocent Champmathieu would go to prison, and he could stay a wealthy, successful mayor, helping thousands of poor people. But if he went to the court and confessed the truth, his beautiful life would vanish. He would be locked in heavy chains again, and Fantine would die alone. He spent a long, agonizing night walking around his room, looking at the bishop's silver candlesticks. The candles were burning with a quiet light, reminding him of his promise. Valjean knew that an honest soul was worth more than a wealthy position. The next morning, he boarded a fast carriage and raced to the courtroom. He opened the heavy wooden doors, stood before the strict judge, and shouted with a proud, strong voice, "Gentlemen, release that innocent man. I am the true criminal you are searching for. I am Jean Valjean." He pulled back his coat to show his old prison tattoo. The room was silent with complete amazement. Valjean walked out of the court immediately and rushed back to the hospital to see Fantine. But Javert followed him like a shadow and burst into the hospital room with a sword. When poor Fantine saw Javert arresting the kind mayor, the intense shock broke her weak heart. She collapsed onto her pillow and passed away peacefully. Jean Valjean bent down, kissed her cold forehead, and whispered a sacred vow into her ear. "I will save your child, Cosette. I swear it on my soul." Valjean was caught and locked away, but because of his massive physical strength, he managed to break the iron bars of his cell window, jump into the dark river, and escape again. He traveled immediately to the dark village where the Thénardiers lived. On Christmas Eve, he found little 8-year-old Cosette walking alone in the dark forest, crying in fear as she carried a heavy wooden bucket of water back to the inn. Valjean walked up to her, took the heavy bucket from her tiny hands, and smiled a warm, gentle smile. He went to the inn, paid a massive sum of gold coins to the greedy Thénardiers to buy Cosette's freedom, and carried her away into the night. From that unforgettable moment, Cosette became Valjean's whole world. He was no longer a lonely convict, he was a loving father. They moved to the giant city of Paris, hiding inside a quiet convent house where Valjean worked as a simple gardener under a false name, and Cosette grew up to be an exceptionally beautiful, educated, and kind young woman. 10 years passed smoothly. Cosette was now an 18-year-old lady, and she often walked with Valjean through a beautiful green park in Paris called the Luxembourg Gardens. During their daily walks, a handsome young university student noticed Cosette. His name was Marius Pontmercy. Marius was a brilliant student from an aristocratic family, but he had left his wealthy grandfather's house because he believed in freedom, democracy, and social justice for the poor. He was part of a secret revolutionary group of students called the Friends of the ABC, led by a charismatic young leader named Enjolras. When Marius looked into Cosette's eyes, he fell hopelessly in love. Cosette looked back at him, and a beautiful spark of romantic love awoke in her heart. They began to meet secretly in a quiet garden at night, whispering promises of eternal love through the iron gate. But the dark cloud of history was moving fast. The year was 1832. The poor people of Paris were starving, the government was corrupt, and a popular general who loved the citizens died suddenly. The student revolutionaries decided that the time had arrived to fight for a new republic. They rose up in a massive, raucous rebellion. They built giant structures called barricades across the narrow stone streets of Paris,
using old carriages, heavy wooden furniture, and cobblestones. They held guns and flags, ready to fight the king's massive army. Marius joined them on the barricade, ready to die for freedom, because he thought Cosette had left France with her father. Jean Valjean discovered the truth about Marius when he found a secret letter Cosette had written. Valjean felt a sudden sharp surge of jealousy and panic. He thought, "This young man wants to take my daughter away from me." But then he remembered the bishop's mercy, and he realized that true love is selfless. He put on a soldier's uniform, picked up his gun, and walked straight to the dangerous barricade to protect Marius.
The battle on the barricade was brutal and terrifying. The king's soldiers attacked with cannons and rifles, and the air was full of thick black smoke and deafening thumping noises. Many brave students died on the wooden structure. During the battle, the students caught a spy who had climbed over the wall. The spy was none other than Inspector Javert, who had dressed like a worker to betray them. Enjolras ordered the students to execute Javert. Jean Valjean walked forward and said calmly, "Let me execute this man myself. I want to take him into the dark alley behind the wall." Enjolras agreed. Valjean led Javert into a quiet alley. Javert looked at him with cold, stubborn eyes and said, "Take your revenge, Jean Valjean. Shoot me. You were a criminal and I am a police officer." But Valjean did not shoot. He took out his sharp pocket knife, cut the ropes on Javert's wrists, and whispered with absolute gentleness, "You are free to go, Javert. I do not hate you, and I do not seek revenge. Go back to your police station." He fired his gun into the air to trick the students and let Javert walk away. Javert walked into the dark night, his mind completely broken with intense confusion and agony. His mechanical view of the world had collapsed. A criminal had saved his life with pure grace. He could not arrest Valjean anymore, but he could not break the law either. His rigid heart could not transition into this new world of mercy. He walked to a high bridge over the river Seine, looked down at the black, roaring waterfall of water, and jumped off the railing into the dark depths, ending his own life. Back on the barricade, the king's army launched a final catastrophic attack. The barricade was destroyed, and Marius was shot multiple times, falling unconscious and bleeding into the dirt. Jean Valjean picked up Marius's fragile body on his powerful shoulders. The soldiers were surrounding them, so Valjean lifted a heavy iron grate on the street floor and descended deep into the underworld of Paris, the giant underground sewer tunnels. The journey through the sewers was an absolute nightmare. The tunnels were dark, cold, wet, filled with stinking mud and deep water that reached Valjean's chest. He walked for hours in the absolute dark, exhausted, bleeding, carrying a heavy man on his back. He encountered a terrifying trap, a pool of deep, quicksand-like mud. He began to sink lower and lower until the mud reached his neck. But with a final superhuman surge of physical strength and fatherly love, he pulled his feet out of the trap and crawled out to a secret exit gate by the river. He had saved Marius's life. Marius woke up several weeks later in his grandfather's mansion, completely healed. He did not know who had carried him through the dark sewers, but he was reunited with Cosette. Jean Valjean gave his absolute blessing to their marriage and gave them a massive inheritance of gold coins from his old factory wealth to ensure their absolute comfort. Their wedding was a magnificent, joyful feast filled with music and flowers. After the wedding, Jean Valjean came to Marius's private study alone. He looked into Marius's eyes and confessed his dark secret. "Marius, I must tell you the truth. I am an escaped convict. My real name is Jean Valjean. Cosette does not know, and she must never find out because it would ruin her reputation in high society. I am going to move away quietly." Marius was shocked and looked at him doubtfully, believing Valjean was a dangerous, unstable criminal. He allowed Valjean to leave the house and slowly stopped letting Cosette visit her father.
Jean Valjean moved to a tiny, quiet room in a poor part of Paris. He sat alone by his small fireplace every day, missing Cosette with an overwhelming weight of sorrow and loneliness. His old body became extremely weak, his health failed rapidly, and he lay down on his bed, ready to pass away. Suddenly, the dining room door flew open with a loud bang. Marius and Cosette ran into the room, falling to their knees by his bedside, weeping tears of deep regret and love.
Marius had discovered the truth. The greedy innkeeper, Thénardier, had tried to sell a secret to Marius, revealing that the man who carried him through the dark sewers on the night of the Revolution was actually Jean Valjean himself. Marius looked at Valjean with eyes full of absolute gratitude and cried out, "Forgive me, Father, you are a saint. You saved my life, and I threw you away." Cosette wrapped her beautiful arms around Valjean's neck, kissing his pale face, and whispered, "Father, do not leave us. We are here to take you home. You are going to live with us forever." Jean Valjean smiled a real, magnificent smile of pure peace. He held their hands tightly, his eyes shining with absolute joy. He looked at the table next to his bed, where the 2 silver candlesticks of Bishop Myriel were burning with a soft, golden light. He looked at Cosette and whispered his final beautiful words. "My dear children, I am dying a completely happy man. Always remember that the greatest truth in the entire universe is very simple. To love another person is to see the face of God." He closed his eyes, and his soul flew up into the quiet horizon of eternity, leaving behind a beautiful legacy of pure grace, absolute transformation, and immortal light. Welcome back, my truly wonderful, dedicated friends. Kevin here again. Now that you have listened to the complete, beautiful saga of Les Misérables, let us step back together and enter our profound conceptual analysis. Let us understand the deep psychology of this historical masterpiece and discover how the journey of Jean Valjean connects directly to your personal success as an English language learner. When you look at Jean Valjean at the beginning of the story, he is wearing heavy iron chains around his ankles. He has spent 19 years doing exhausting labor inside a dark prison ship. And even when he is released, he is forced to carry a heavy yellow passport that tells the whole world he is a dangerous criminal. Wherever he goes, people look at his passport, judge his past, and slam the door in his face. He feels trapped, angry, and completely isolated inside a prison of his own past mistakes. I want to tell you a very profound truth. Many English language learners carry a heavy yellow passport of self-doubt and shyness every single day. When you enter a real conversation or when you join an English learning class, you might feel the heavy thumping of intense anxiety inside your chest. You look back at your past mistakes, the times you forgot a basic vocabulary word, the times the teacher corrected your grammar too strictly in school, or the times you felt embarrassed because your accent sounded foreign. Because of those old memories, you put heavy iron chains of hesitation around your own voice. You tell yourself, I am a bad student. I have a terrible accent. I am too slow to learn. My grammar is full of criminal mistakes. Every time you say those negative words to yourself, you are acting like Inspector Javert to your own mind. You are judging yourself based on your old past. You are refusing to see your potential, and you slam the door of fluency in your own face. You lock your confidence inside a dark, underground dungeon of shame. But let us look closely at the beautiful mechanics of the transformation in the story. What is the force that breaks the chains of Jean Valjean's prison? It is not money, it is not a weapon, and it is not a clever trick. It is the divine mercy and grace of Bishop Myriel. When Valjean robs the bishop and gets caught by the police, the bishop does not seek revenge. He does not turn his back. He walks forward, hands him the silver candlesticks, and says, I have bought your soul from darkness, and I give it back to your potential. That sudden, unexpected act of total forgiveness melts the cold ice around Valjean's heart and gives him the internal power to completely rebuild his identity, become a mayor, and save the lives of others. To master English fluency, my friends, you must become like Bishop Myriel to your own learning process. Stop judging your voice based on where you used to fail. When you make a grammatical mistake or forget an adjective during a conversation, do not whip yourself with criticism. Show yourself absolute mercy. Hand yourself the silver candlesticks of encouragement. Say to yourself, it is completely okay that my sentence was not perfect today. I am an A1-A2 traveler, and my mistakes do not define my future. I am clearing away the mud of hesitation, and I am moving forward, step by step, day by day. Look at his ultimate escape from the battlefield. He had to carry a heavy man on his back through the dark, cold sewer tunnels. He had to sink into the deep mud up to his neck to reach the safe exit gate by the river. On your journey to language acquisition, you will also experience your own sewer tunnels. You will have weeks when the vocabulary feels confusing, when the grammar looks like stinking mud, and when you feel completely exhausted by the weight of practice. When those difficult moments arrive, do not panic and do not give up. Keep your mind calm. Lift the weight of your daily habits on your powerful shoulders and wade through the dark tunnels with focus. Every slow podcast you listen to, every single clear sentence you repeat inside your vocabulary studio is a step closer to the exit gate of fluency. Do not let the Javert of perfectionism drown your spirit in the river of despair. Be brave like Valjean, accept your journey with a happy smile, and remember that when you feed your mind with kindness, your voice will stand up straight on the grand stage of life, beautiful, confident, and absolutely free. Now, let us enter the most practical, high-energy segment of today's mega episode, the English Daily Vocabulary Studio. We are going to extract 20 exceptional vocabulary words and phrases directly from our historical adventure masterpiece. These expressions are highly valuable, extremely common, and incredibly practical in natural daily English interactions. Here are your strict instructions for our massive workout. I will read each word clearly, explain its exact meaning in a simple way, provide multiple context examples, and then we will immediately start our interactive shadowing. When you hear the word cue, open your mouth and repeat the phrase out loud with power, copying my rhythm,
my emotion, and my speed exactly. Let us begin our ultimate training session.
Word 1. Convict. A convict is a person who has been officially found guilty of a crime by a judge in a court of law and is serving a sentence inside a prison or a labor camp. For example, the prison guards watched the dangerous convicts carefully during their exercise hour. Let us practice shadowing. The passport showed it. The yellow passport showed it. Showed he was an ex-convict. The police caught him. Caught the escaped convict. Caught him near the dark forest. Word 2. Candlestick. A candlestick is a decorative holder or a small stand with a socket made of metal, wood, or glass used for holding a wax candle firmly in a vertical position. For example, she placed 2 beautiful golden candlesticks on the dining table for the party. Let us practice shadowing. The bishop handed him lines. Handed him the heavy candlesticks. The heavy silver candlesticks. The room was lit up. Lit by a single candle. In a wooden candlestick.
Word 3. Mercy. Mercy is a feeling of deep kindness, compassion, and forgiveness shown toward an enemy, a criminal, or a person who has done something wrong when you have the power to punish them. For example, the poor man fell to his knees and begged the judge for mercy. Let us practice shadowing. The bishop looked at him. Looked with kind eyes. With eyes full of mercy. We must show kindness. Show mercy and understanding to those who make mistakes. Word 4. Ornament. An ornament is a small, beautiful object used as a decoration to make a room, a house, a garden, or a piece of clothing look more attractive and elegant. For example, my mother collects beautiful glass ornaments to hang on the tree during winter holidays. Let us practice shadowing. His factory made things. Made beautiful glass ornaments. Ornaments for high society. Please place that object. That fragile crystal ornament. Safely on the shelf.
Word 5. Unmask. To unmask means to pull off a person's mask or to reveal the true character, hidden identity, or secret intentions of someone to the public. For example, the journalist wrote a massive article to unmask the corrupt politician. Let us practice shadowing. The inspector was determined. Determined to unmask him. Unmask the new mayor. The truth will arrive. Arrive and unmask his plans. his deceitful plans tonight. Word 6. Rag. A rag is a piece of old, torn, dirty, and worthless cloth from a used garment, often used for cleaning floors or wiping oil stains. For example, use a clean cotton rag to wipe the dust off the television screen. Let us practice shadowing. The innkeepers dressed the child. The greedy innkeepers dressed her. Dressed the poor child in rags. Dressed her in dirty rags. He cleaned his hands. Cleaned his grease-covered hands. With an old cloth rag. Word 7. Overrule. To overrule means to use your official authority, power, or higher position to reject, cancel, or change a decision made by a lower official or a court. For example, the Supreme Court decided to overrule the local magistrate's strict judgment. Let us practice shadowing. They veined a poor man. Arrested a poor simple man. A man named Champmathieu. Champmathieu stood there. Stood before the strict judge. In complete and total confusion. Word 8. Champmathieu. Champmathieu is the specific name of the poor, simple countryman in our story who was mistaken for the famous convict Jean Valjean because of his physical appearance. For example, Champmathieu was an innocent man who did not understand the court process. Let us practice shadowing. They vanned a poor man. Arrested a poor simple man. A man named Champmathieu. Word 9. Tattoo. A tattoo is a permanent design, mark, word, or picture made on a person's skin by putting colored ink into small holes using a sharp needle. For example, the sailor had a beautiful tattoo of a ship's anchor on his muscular arm. Let us practice shadowing. He pulled back his coat to show his old tattoo. His old prison tattoo. She has a small design. A small tattoo of a leaf. A green leaf on her wrist. Word 10. Vow. A vow is a highly serious, formal, and sacred promise or oath that you make to a person, to yourself, or to God, which you swear to keep forever. For example, the young couple made a solemn vow to stay together through joy and sorrow. Let us practice shadowing. He whispered a promise. A sacred vow into her ear. Whispered it very softly. He made a personal promise. a personal vow to practice. Practice his English every morning. Word 11. Convent. A convent is a quiet, secure building or community of houses where a group of religious women, called nuns, live, study, and pray together away from secular society. Example: she spent 5 years living peacefully inside a beautiful mountain convent. Let us practice shadowing. They moved to a house. A quiet convent house. Moved to a house in Paris. The doors were locked. The convent doors were locked. Locked tightly against the streets. Word 12. Democracy. A democracy is a system of government where the citizens have the power to choose their leaders, vote on laws, and enjoy equal social rights and freedom. For example, the citizens fought a long revolution to bring true democracy to their country. Let us practice shadowing. Marius was a student. A brilliant student who believed in true democracy. Free speech is the core. The core foundation here. Foundation of any modern democracy. Word 13. Barricade. A barricade is a temporary heavy wall or structure built quickly across a street or path using cars, stones, or furniture to stop an enemy from passing during a battle. For example, the protesters built a massive barricade to block the main road to the palace. Let us practice shadowing. The revolutionaries built a wall. The student revolutionaries built it. Built a giant barricade. Barricade across the narrow street. The soldiers stood ready. Stood behind the iron barricade. Stood there with their weapons. Word 14. Cobblestone. A cobblestone is a small round stone used in past centuries to pave the surface of streets and roads, creating a bumpy but strong pavement. For example, the tourist loved walking along the old cobblestone streets of Europe. Let us practice shadowing. The tourist loved walking. Loved walking along old streets. The old cobblestone streets. The rain made them slippery. Made the smooth cobblestones slippery to walk on tonight. Word 15. Selfless. Selfless means caring completely about the happiness, health, and success of other people more than your own personal safety, money, or comfort. For example, the brave mother made many selfless choices to educate her young children. Let us practice shadowing. Jean Valjean realized it. Realized that true love is good. True love is completely selfless. Volunteering is an act. A beautiful, selfless act. Volunteering at the free hospital. Word 16. Cascade. A cascade is a large amount of water, liquid, or material that falls or pours down quickly and heavily in a waterfall or steep wave pattern. For example, the winter storm created a cold cascade of mud down the steep hills. Let us practice shadowing. The inspector fell down. Fell into the water. Into the roaring cascade of water. A beautiful light show. A beautiful cascade of gold lights. Lit up the entire theater stage. Word 17. Sewer. A sewer is a giant network of underground pipes in stone tunnels used for carrying dirty water, waste, and rain away from a city to a safe place. For example, the city workers entered the dark sewer tunnels to clean the blocked water pipes. Let us practice shadowing. He descended deep down. Deep into the tunnels. The underground sewer tunnels. Sewer tunnels of Paris. The old sewer was wet. It was wet and cold. And smelled like sharp chemicals. Word 18. Quicksand. Quicksand is a deep, loose mass of wet sand and mud that looks solid but cannot support weight, drawing any heavy object or person down into its depths. For example, the explorer walked carefully to avoid the dangerous quicksand near the riverbank. Let us practice shadowing. He encountered a trap. A terrifying trap of mud. Deep quicksand mud in the dark. The heavy iron bar sank. Sank quickly into the sand. Into the wet quicksand floor. Word 19. Saint. A saint is an exceptionally holy, pure, kind, and virtuous person who is honored after death by the Church, or anyone who shows extraordinary goodness to others. For example, the kind woman spent her whole life helping orphans, and everyone called her a saint. Let us practice shadowing. Marius looked at him. Looked and said the words. Said, "You are a saint." The ancient church was named. Named after a character. After a famous historical saint. Word 20. Legacy. A legacy is something valuable, inspiring, or important, such as money, property, values, or a reputation that is handed down from an ancestor or a past life to the future generation. For example, the brilliant inventor left a massive legacy of scientific discovery to the world. Let us practice shadowing. He left behind a gift. A beautiful legacy. A legacy of pure grace. We must work hard now. Work to protect the legacy. The historical legacy of ancestors. We have successfully reached the final destination of our massive storytelling journey today. What an extraordinary, expansive workout you have completed. We have followed the powerful Jean Valjean from the dusty roads of France to the rich office of a mayor. We have stood before the burning silver candlesticks during a long night of moral crisis. We have waded through the chest-deep mud of the underground sewers to save a human life. And we have discovered that the greatest force in the entire universe is not the strict whip of the law, but the soft gold light of mercy, love, and transformation that lives inside our souls. Before I say goodbye for today, I want to deliver a highly practical lifestyle strategy that fits perfectly with our historical masterpiece theme. I call it passive lifestyle integration. Think about how Jean Valjean modified his life after meeting the bishop. He didn't carry his old chains with him or spend his days crying about his 19 years of suffering. He left the town, changed his physical environment, built a factory, and placed those 2 silver candlesticks on his mantelpiece where he could see them every hour. He integrated the bishop's grace into his daily physical surroundings until it became his automatic lifestyle. You must do the exact same thing with your English journey. Stop trying to fight a painful, exhausting battle against your old mistakes once a week until your brain falls into total fatigue. Instead, build an automated language environment inside your daily routine. Integrate English into your passive, automatic moments. For example, when you change your smartphone's system language to English, you are removing the yellow passport of your native comfort zone. Every time you check an ornament app or open your phone's settings cabinet, your brain is doing secret, passive learning behind the scenes, just like Valjean's hidden development inside the quiet convent garden. When you are washing your morning dishes or walking down the street, let the slow, clear sounds of the English Daily Podcast be your background music. Let the melody and vocabulary enter your ears passively, like the sun illuminating a stained glass window. When you scatter these small, intelligent micro-actions throughout your normal week, just like your morning hot coffee or a casual walk, you are changing the entire ecosystem of your mind. You are removing the heavy thumping of self-doubt and letting your natural confidence stand up straight on its own 2 feet. Fluency is not an impossible dream. It is the natural, beautiful result of daily, consistent habits. Thank you so much for spending your deeply valuable, precious time with me today, right here on the English Daily Podcast. I am incredibly honored and humbled to be your companion, your coach, and your supportive peer on this path. By completing this massive, long-form lesson today, you have demonstrated that you have the focus, the determination, and the deep passion necessary to master this language. I am genuinely proud of your hard work. If this epic story brought a smile to your face, reignited your courage, or helped your listening ears, please take one quick action. Share this episode with a friend, a family member, or a classmate who needs a spark of inspiration today. Let us grow our beautiful daily global family together and support one another step by step, day by day. Until tomorrow's episode, take excellent care of yourself, stay positive, unmask your language confidence with pride, and always remember that to love your journey is to see the face of success, keeping a happy smile. I am your host, Kevin, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye, everyone, and bye-bye.